He's there.
Great, good. Okay. So repeat that, please, Ivan, because
And the recording.
we
Yeah,
had
so
a design working group meeting yesterday, and we were talking about the PDBR role there.
yeah,
So it's very
well,
relevant.
yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much for referring to it correctly. Everybody refers to it as a BRPD, and that's incorrect. It's PDBR. So you're right in what you say. But yesterday I qualified as the only project management delivery side PDBR in the UK. There is not another one. And the APS are courting me very hard for me to join their list as a project delivery PDBR, which is
Where are
nice.
you from, Ivan? Where are you from? And business wise, you work for a company or freelance or
No,
what?
no, I've been consulting since the summer. I finished a project in the summer in Derby, a beautiful listed building, used to be a bank. And I completed that in the summer, and I've been consulting ever since. So, and I consult on a whole range of different things. I've got my fingers in many pies, um, and basically all of my interests are based on subjects that I have a real interest in. For example, I do a lot on. I've been talking to George about mold and damp. And I've got some new inventions to introduce to the group on that. Um, I've just started looking into issues for leaseholders who have ongoing extra overcosts in relation to buildings that have come under the focus of the BSR, where they have to move out, or they're living in conditions that are unacceptable. So I've just started working on that as well in relation to the BSA. Um, focus heavily on Awab's law as well, and the implications of that. In fact, I had a half an hour with the BSR yesterday afternoon, who joined our group because it was quite a moment that a project manager's become a PDBR. So I spoke to him about Awab's law, and he expects that within this year, and certainly in this year, Awab's law will be fully embraced by the BSA, which is quite interesting. And it's not before time, to be honest. So yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. And I live here with my missus and my two cats, and both of my cats are on a salary. They've never ever earned their keep. So there you go.
Where are you actually located?
I'm in West London.
Cool.
Very near Chiswick.
Okay, good. Okay, well, we've got a meeting set up. Ivan's got a product that I picked up that he was offering on LinkedIn, because what we're trying to do, we've got a dedicated work stream, Dave and Bex, about Awab's law, because it's clearly something that is really important to social landlords. And what we're trying to do is to see if we can come up with some sort of aligned way of addressing it, because I don't know about anybody here, but I've had now 3 or 4 calls from call centers asking me that they want to represent me in taking a claim for damp and mold to my housing provider. I don't. I live in in my own house, so they're clearly randomly phoning people, and what they're trying to do is just recruit as many people as possible on a no-win, no-fee basis, so that they can come for the social landlords. And I think that's really shocking. I'm not surprised at all, but it's really shocking. And I think one way potentially of trying to address that is for us to come up with a process that is adequately robust and reasonable, that everybody can point to say this is best practice. Because at the moment, I think if everybody's got their own way of tackling it, they've also got their own supply chains, and the supply chains will have supply chains, and you'll end up in a situation where the quality of workmanship maybe hasn't been monitored adequately, and some problems occur. So we've had a couple of meetings, BIM and asset management meetings, which again, as normal, are recorded. Connor, one of the active members of that group, Connor's from the Wheatley Group, which is the largest housing association in Scotland, and Connor's got some really good suggestions of how we can deal with it from a social landlord's perspective. We've also had on it in the working groups. We've had recruits. We've had a specialist come in, a damp and mold specialist, who has developed a technology to be able to clean mold off things, and it actually kills the mold. Now, that's something that I think when I heard about it, I was skeptical about it, but they're part of the Marks and Spencer supply chain. They've been doing it for 10 years, and it's done in food production. So I think that's probably a technology that could be used. But Ivan's got another technology that we've set up a meeting next week, next Thursday. So if any of the social landlords want to attend that, Ivan can explain to you what that is. On this call, Ivan, just to explain the people that you've got on the call.
Yeah.
You've got Dave Williams, who's from Places for People, so Origin Housing. They're one of the biggest social landlords.
Yeah.
You've got Jack White, who's from Clarion, who's again one of the biggest social landlords. I've already explained who Connor is from Wheatley Group. So you've actually got three people here that are quite big. And Bex Gibson, who now is with RLB, she was the building safety manager at Live West. So again, big in social housing.
I should be standing to attention then. I better go and give me a minute. I'll put some trousers on. I'll stand to attention. I just want to say something very quickly, because a couple of things you've just said, George. First of all, a company that's been in the mold business for 10 years, constantly repeating the same process over and over again, is a good indication that what they're doing is not curing the problem. I've taken it a step further, and I've looked past the fact that black mold exists and looked at why it exists. So rather than treating the symptom, I've gone and fired an exocet missile right at the cause. So what my system does is it removes the opportunity for mold to ever grow. It removes it entirely, so that black mold is eradicated at the point of treatment, or the point of this system being introduced. The system then constantly monitors, adjusts, and repairs any humidity issues, and renders the property completely unable to harbour any kind of mold growth at all.
Ivan, I was going to say, you're not going to turn around and say, open the window, are you?
No, well, not just that, but here's another claim. My system is in particularly at properties where there is energy poverty. My system does not require any extra heating, any extra ventilation. It doesn't require anybody to do anything at all other than just live in the property.
Okay, so well, I don't want to hijack this meeting because
No, of course not.
This has been set up by Dave and Bex, and I want to make sure that we're covering the things that we want to be covering.
Yeah.
But I think probably maybe a little bit later on, if we could touch on that. I mean, the other thing is that in the other workstream meeting, the AWAB's workstream meeting, we've also got several technology companies that do sensors, humidity sensors, and things like that. We've got we've got Alex Oldman, who's now with Total Mobile. So we've been looking at things from a point of view of CRM as well. And Connor, would you be able to go through at some stage your workflow for us, the one that you were showing yesterday?
Yes, can do that.
Okay, so I'm going to shut up for a minute now because Dave and Bex are this is their meeting. But so what do you think we should be covering today?
Sorry,
Dave?
can I just say, if you're interested in coming to that meeting next week, just put mold in the chat, and then we can get you an invite out.
Yeah, Ivan, just to answer the point about the spray, we're not the Marks and Spencer have got that in their supply chain because it's not just mold that it kills. It's it's addressing all sorts of different infections, and you can imagine in a food manufacturing process, it's got to be non-toxic,
Yeah.
and it's got to work.
Yeah.
So I think that's fairly well proven. But I don't think you're absolutely right that the problem has got to be to identify what the cause of the mold is, fix the cause of the mold, but also the landlord's got to figure out a way of addressing it in the very short term as well.
Mm.
So that's where I think a combination. This is my view anyway. I don't know whether.
No, I don't disagree with you there, George. I think the problem that social landlords have got, and I'm sure Dave and Bex and Jack will back me up on this, is that AWAB's law removes any opportunity for anybody to not react. But the problem that we've got is that AWAB's law is so the penalties are so closely knit to the time frame in which people have been given to react that they're forced down the path of having to instigate a knee-jerk reaction, which is where the mold industry has popped up and is now propagating and took on a life of its own. If there's an opportunity to look more closely at what actually causes mold, then it cuts everything off at the neck. Yeah.
And within our community, we've got people that we've got a development group meeting next week, for example, and that's probably the group that would initiate it, because this is the operations group, and often by the time it gets to you, a lot of the bad decisions have been taken. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah. I think you're right from the perspective of particularly for new builds, the materials chosen and various bits and pieces. I think a lot of the current issues that are coming out are more to do with where retrofitting has been done and various bits and pieces like that caused undue problems. Just interestingly, listening to what you were saying, and I'll only just mention this briefly so that we get back to the agenda, albeit that this was on the agenda anyway. Just on the ambulance chases, what we've found with them is a lot of them will tell people that, almost that they can go straight to the ombudsman. But the thing is that the way things are set up is that every housing association has a complaints process. It's usually a two-stage complaint process. and people have to go through that process first before they can then go to the ombudsman to say nothing's been done. And then we basically, have to prove that we have done, everything that we can do, realistically, within the timeframes as Ivan mentioned, in order to satisfy that we've handled the complaints process correctly. And so it's only at that final hurdle that compensation is likely to be granted or not, basically, by the ombudsman. And as I said, so the ambulance chasers are selling false promises, suggesting that you can bypass an existing, reporting and complaints procedure and go straight to the ombudsman and get compensation. So it's worth mentioning that.
It's definitely worth mentioning that. And the other thing is that we've I listened to a Radio 4 program, I think it was early in the week, where people are getting into huge debt because they are listening to these ambulance chasers, and they're taking on a no-win, no-fee basis, but actually they end up with huge liabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll track that down. It was on Radio 4. I'll track it down and I'll let everybody have it, because I think that's something that we should be doing.
Yeah. I think apart from that you raised a very good point, George. I think we're talking about a demographic in society who are living in social housing because they can't afford to pay private rents. They're living in properties they can't afford to heat. They really struggle with money, and then these ambulance chasers are coming along and taking more money off them that they can't afford to pay. I think the whole system is a mess.
Yeah. Right. Well, if I can get us onto the agenda. So, George, you do get an opportunity to talk some more now. So, looking at the agenda we discussed the other week, we were talking about updates on the Golden Thread working group and the demonstration of the AI capabilities, George.
Yeah, sure. Something else I just wanted to include in that, so bear with me a second.
Yeah, sure, no problems.
Jack, you've not said anything yet. Have you got any views on any of this stuff?
Yeah, but nothing worth sharing.
Oh dear. Good. Okay, Jack. I mean, what's what are Clarion doing as far as the stamp and mold thing is concerned? Or is that not part of what you're doing? I imagine it's not really.
Yeah, it's not quite part of what I'm doing. I think, as with most housing associations, it's focusing on legal compliance, which isn't necessarily what I'd like us to be doing, but that's the kind of way it goes with these things. I think, it's already spoken about here, the focus on timescales rather than necessarily addressing root causes, but it's making ourselves compliant first.
Yeah, it's a risk-averse approach, isn't it, Jack? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the challenges with that is as far as the golden thread is concerned, it's a matter of really being able to turn that into something that senior directors can relate to, because otherwise the investment actually is it isn't actually being realized. I think so what we've been doing is trying to, I'll show you my screen.
Okay.
What we've so Sorry, I'm running it on a different machine. Bear with me. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Yeah.
So through the BIM in asset management meetings, we've been doing polls over the last 6 months. And what we've discovered is that, you know, the 92% of people say that they're not confident they're getting the Regulation 38 information. They're not confident that the O&M information is correct. They're not confident even that the fire and emergency file is accurate on an ongoing basis. And this is probably the most telling thing. They don't believe their senior directors actually are fully aware of their duties under the Building Safety Act. So the challenge that we've got is that we've got people that are probably at this level here that were aware of what in principle the golden thread is about, but the senior directors probably aren't, because it's not actually potentially they don't see the impact. So what we've tried to do is to look at redefining or defining, not redefining, what the golden thread actually is, rather than it being a concept. So it's electronic. The important thing is that it's going right the way through the process. Actually, it starts before design, and it's easily transferred when there's a change of ownership. So that this come directly out of the guidance. And I think what we need to do is help, people like Ivan, who's a project manager, probably with the greatest respect, probably driven commercially in many ways, to be able to interpret what the golden thread is about, so that we can actually translate it into the needs of the organization to go through the different stages of the process. And the analogy we're using is that it's like DNA. It's being able to go through the various different stages and then work through collaboration so that we end up with removing traditional silos, and importantly, determining what information is needed, why it's needed, who's going to gather it, who benefits from it, and also what the potential cost savings are. So we've had a group looking at this from a point of view of the different stages that, not just on a new build project, but on a project generally. By using the golden thread principles and tools, we can coordinate what information is needed, different stakeholders. How do we capture the information? How do we automate the production of O&M so they're more reliable? By engaging the product manufacturers into the process. Then being able to validate the information progressively, federate it, then transform that into asset information to make sure that the information's needed to address maintenance issues and also work instructions, and then finally end up with that. So what we've done is looked at that from a point of view of plan, create, and operate, to try and translate this into something that isn't just an IT problem. It's actually something that relates back to what whole tranches of people are doing. So this is the way we've broken it down, looking at things from an activities perspective, for the the whole process. But then we've looked at this from a point of view of then looking at what's it actually doing, what the outcomes. So being able to say, well, what's the financial benefit for the whole project, irrespective of what the individuals are doing, irrespective of what work stage it is, the information quality, using standardization, making stuff auditable is critical. And what's the benefit of that? In the workshop that we had yesterday, the design working group, we identified that there's a lot of rework, unnecessary rework being done by teams that could be sorted out if things were more aligned at the beginning. I think this is also absolutely critical for the use of AI, because we're doing a lot at the moment. I think everybody's doing a lot on AI at the moment, but unless the fundamental building blocks of the data are right, then we're going to get the wrong results. The other major benefit is cost and risk reduction across the asset life cycle, enabling supply chains to engage properly, not in isolation, but make sure that the supply chains realize the importance of them providing the right information. Obviously, digital records, asset information models, that's absolutely where we're at as far as operations are concerned, I think. And the other thing is competency management. And finally, automation, so integration and bringing that through. So the point is, we're probably already paying for a lot of this information to be collected. It may not be being done perfectly, but if we can, if it's already being paid for, if we can get together and organize it a bit more effectively, then it shouldn't actually cost any more. We ought to be able to use standardization to do it, and let's not waste it. So I've got a spreadsheet that we're all working to, which, if you're interested in the benefits side of things, I'd like to share that with you. But the ultimate goal here, we've just done some very broad brush estimates using ChatGPT, to be fair, to say what the potential cost reductions are of better information and more auditability. That's the impact on life cycle, supply chain assurance. So I'm interested in people who would like to contribute to this. So if you want to, just put benefits in the chat and we'll share that with you. And also, please talk to your colleagues about it, because there may well be people that can contribute to that. And as far as standardization is concerned, where we're going with this is to try and align with the government standards for property. So being able to align the way things are described, what is an asset and how's it described? Floor. This sounds crazy, isn't it? But we don't have a standard way of describing the floor references, and then to be able to identify what spaces are data structures and things like this. So this is something called FMS 002, and I'll just finally say, yesterday we had in the design group meeting, we had Andy Green from Atkins join us, and he gave us a preview of something that's happening in the next month or so called the ADS Alliance. So what they've done, they've brought together RICS, which is NRM, SIBSI, which is SIBSI Guide M, which is life cycle, MBS, which is Uniclass, and BISA that produces SFG 20, to try and align them so that everybody is then using the same language and terminology. So if you're interested in this, I'll send you a copy of this this video, and we're going to be putting this together. They're quite keen on our involvement in this. I've got another bit to show on the AI side of things, but I'm going to stop there now, Dave, to let us, because otherwise it's just me talking.
Yeah, Ivan.
This is brilliant, but there are a couple of things that are missing from it that I think if they were included, it would make the AI thing a whole lot easier. Now, what I've seen over the last couple of weeks, and well, couple of months, while I've been doing my training for my PDBR thing, is that everybody's trying to correlate the gateways, the BSA gateways, to the REBA 7 stages, and it just doesn't
It
work.
doesn't work. I agree.
3 does not go into 7.
Yeah.
So it's time, I think, that anybody who wants to get into this whole use of the golden thread and moving it forward as a standard, is to step aside from the REBA 7 stages. And I noticed, George, that you haven't got the inclusion of REBA there in your little consortium that you've just been talking about. But the golden thread is an amazing, massive source for information. But the one thing that's not included in the golden thread, as a matter of course, because it's not covered in any contracts or in any stages by REBA, are as-built drawings.
I agree.
And
it's fundamental, isn't it? I agree.
It is. It absolutely is. And if you've got an AI software tool, which I have, and I'm working on this as a little side project because it interests me, that I can plug in a PDF of a floor plan, and it will spit out everything that needs to be added for the golden thread. And I've already developed that. So I've you know that I suppose I'm running in parallel with you guys, and I'm happy to share that, because if it becomes a standard and it makes it easier for everybody, I'm happy to share it. But it's just a little subroutine, a little bit of code that I wrote for myself to add to ChatGPT, and it makes it read a PDF in finite detail. Obviously, and what that does is as well, not just for the golden thread, but it helps in other ways as well, because it can take a set of drawings and it'll spit out room plans and lists for rooms for fit out and hardware, software, M&E, everything.
Yeah, so Ivan, be very good to see that, and certainly we've got the community to be able to consume that and use it. The big challenge is the drawings that you're talking about. They're probably not right. So the PDF drawings that you're referring to, if they don't actually reflect the current state of the building,
exactly,
then that's a challenge. And we've got other members of the community who they're LiDAR specialists and things like that who can do that type of work. We've done that before. Dave did that 2 or 3 years ago, didn't you, Dave?
Yep.
The BSR are trying to apply pressure to force principal contractors, BR principal contractors, to embrace the notion that they would provide as-built drawings based on a faithful reproduction of what they've just built. I have my doubts about that, because I've seen, I mean, the principal contractor will just go straight to the PDBR and say, do these as-built drawings. And what they'll do is just remove a tender mark off of a drawing, or a construction off a drawing, and write on it as built. And that, like you say, George, doesn't necessarily reflect what we've got. So we've got to introduce something else. Now, I've seen that there's a possibility here that we could attach some room mapping laser technology here, where you take your bit of kit and you stand it in the middle of the room, press the button, and it generates a drawing. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I absolutely
LiDAR
have seen
stuff.
it. Sorry?
That's the LiDAR cameras. Some are better than others at doing it. It needs to be LiDAR as well. We tried a few Matterport ones that were sort of infrared, and the measurements were all off. Giraffe do one which is relatively cheap, marketed at the sort of estate agents and stuff, but it's been really good when we've used it for getting really accurate floor plans. Sometimes it needs 2 scans, but it says it needs 1. So you're moving in. If you're not getting that one, you're moving into Leica, like the BLK 360s and things like that, and they require a few scans, and then you've got to put it into their software to clear up the noise and things like that. So it's not always quite as easy if you're going for accuracy. It's not always quite easy.
Yeah, so in answer to, thank you, Connor, because that's our experience as well. We've been doing this now for some time, and if it were possible to get a camera to actually generate accurate floor plans, we'd be using it all the time. And at the moment, I can assure you absolutely that it's impossible, right? It's not completely impossible. It will work in due course. And we're very, very close to people that are developing this, right? I'm in touch with Faro, Open Space, all of the major camera people, but there's as Connor said there's things like iPhones that can generate a floor plan for a room, but you try and do it for a one where there's 100 spaces on a floor, and it's way out.
Yeah.
But we're not giving up. And in fact, actually, this morning, I've got one of my guys actually in a hospital this morning doing exactly this. We're taking a 360 through walkthroughs, which we're then going to. We've got another company that's going to be looking at this, because they're really pushing the envelope in terms of being able to generate floor plans from it. But it's not possible yet, Ivan. I know it theoretically, I mean, people have been predicting it for probably 5 years to me. But every time we actually drill into, okay, show me that you've done it for a tower block. Show me that you've done it for a school. Actually, it doesn't. We're just completing actually 78 tower blocks for one of the big councils, and we've been working on that for now 2 years with Ridge, the surveying company, and they've been using both the Leica and the Navis cameras, which Connor was just talking about there.
Yeah, Leica are pretty good. At the moment, they're leading the field, but I expect drone technology is going to start taking over very soon.
Not internal.
Yeah, I think so. I think an AI-driven drone with mapping and GPS capabilities and the ability to record images and measure, I think, you know, I think that's where the industry's heading. I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, we've been.
Is there not, there's the wee like a dog robots, but they're like £500,000.
I know it's outrageous, isn't it?
I don't know how big the update's going to be on that.
Yeah, no, I can't afford that yet. Not yet, anyway. Not yet.
Jack, you've been doing a lot of stuff on building models and things. Have you been? Have you come across a technology that can generate floor plans from I don't mean generate a point cloud, because the only way that I've seen this really work is generating a point cloud and then bringing it into something like Revit and then sketching over it.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do, George. We use the BLK 360 modeling
Yeah.
Revit. We've looked at other things. Just doesn't work to what we need, you know, to be able to do a tower block in the quickest time. SLAM technology, laser scanner, there's nothing else. You know, we've tried many different things. We've spoken to many companies. We're pretty settled on that at the moment, and I don't see anything that's close to us changing the way we work there.
Yeah, sadly, I think you're right. I mean, we're experimenting with it all the time, you know, so it's because it's such a big area. What else do we have on the agenda, Dave?
Yeah, so I mean, funny enough, we've sort of covered a lot of the stuff that was already on the agenda, because we were going to have a conversation about the damp and mold processes, which we sort of did at the start of the meeting. We were talking about AI, which we have also talked about. You've given the update on the golden thread work. And we covered off, you know, some of the challenges that we've got with, you know, accurately recording the data and alignment with asset management systems. And really, the only thing that we haven't talked about was the warranty reform discussions.
All right, okay.
Yeah. So we've sort of run through the agenda quite quickly. I mean, just for the record, as this meeting is being recorded, when George mentioned that he'd put one of his staff in a hospital, I think you should clarify.
Yes,
otherwise, there'll be an ambulance chaser. Yeah.
I made a note about that.
I've just realised that I didn't introduce Abdullah. Abdullah's joined us. He's been quite a loyal person in our community. But you're in Saudi, aren't you, Abdullah? I don't know if you're there at the moment. He's perhaps stepped away. So Abdullah's working on some very big projects in Saudi Arabia. So we're getting quite a reach of what we're doing. We've also got an initiative started in Nigeria. We've got a small group starting there, and also in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong one's quite well established. So we're starting to export the capability.
Just on Hong Kong, George, I mean, have you heard anything post that fire that has come out of the wash?
It's gone very, very quiet. It's extremely political.
I noticed, yeah.
They've clamped down on it. Well, that's the impression I have. They've clamped down on it very, very strongly. So we actually put together a group who could offer some support, including obviously a lot of the things that we've done in BIM4Housing, and we were warned not to push it, as it were, which, you know, is hey ho. I mean, it's fair to say how political is Grenfell. So
Yes,
you can imagine in an authoritarian regime like that, it becomes even more conscious. What I was trying to do was to provide something that helped them learn from the mistakes that we've made, because we've made a lot of mistakes in my view.
Yeah. Oh yeah, without a doubt, and the amount of time it's taken us to see, the benefits of the changes. We're talking, what we're now 7 years, is it? Yeah, a long time of working, and still, we've got issues that we're finding on a day-to-day basis. So.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think what we've really got to be doing is working in a joined up way. I've got another. I showed this last week at the forum meeting, but I don't think everybody was on that.
No.
So it's probably worth me just showing this. I don't think you saw this, Connor, but this is what we're trying to do with the task force. And I'll then touch on the AI. Yeah. So the principle that we're trying to follow with the task force is to, Ivan, have you got a hand up from before?
Yeah, it is from before, Ivan. Actually, thanks, mate.
Right, thank you. Yeah, so the idea that we're working on is if we can bring together people that know how to solve a problem, and AWAB's law is a good example of that, where we can bring together people that have got different experience, and we can bring them together to produce tested solutions between them, which is possibly a combination of technology, expertise, maybe data standards, for example, and we can make that work. And then the housing providers then come along and say, or a hospital comes along and says, we've got a need. We can actually glue the things together, and we can come up with standard. We're using classification and libraries. We've then got the ability to then bring in different technologies from different vendors that we know works. So one of the ways that we're trying to do this with 360 photography, and there's lots of people using 360 photography now, which I think's going to replace in many ways the problem that Ivan was talking about earlier, which is the as-built models or as-built drawings. 360 photography is a way of capturing something that is actually the as-built, because it's irrefutable. But we can use something to turn that into something that's more intelligent. So we're actually adding intelligence to the 360 photos to make them searchable. So what that means is that the sort of information that's being collected during the design and construction process, which is in a variety of different platforms, you might have your models, the technical submittals, maybe in something like Procore or A-Site or something like that. You've got O&Ms that might be in Zootech or whatever. You've got product libraries, and then other standards. The 360 photos can be a very simple way of navigating all of that. And because we're agnostic in terms of what technology is used, we can start with simple 360 cameras, which, 400 quid sort of thing. And then you've got the Leica, which is probably the thick end of 30 grand. And the Navis cameras, which are probably 50 or 60 grand. but they're all producing 360 photos, and they're probably all producing them during the construction period. So from an operations point of view, potentially you've got the opportunity for that to be free, as it were. So it's a matter then of how is that used. So operations teams can use that to capture asset information. So you use 360 photos to actually record what assets are in the building. You can also use it to validate what actually has been installed. You can use it for condition assessment. One of the things that I think is increasingly important from an operations point of view is when people go out to tender for maintenance contracts, it's really important that you know you're very clear in terms of what assets are you maintaining, because all too often what happens is that the FM contractors aren't confident that the clients actually knows what assets are in the buildings. And in my experience, that's certainly probably true. And they don't find out until they start maintaining stuff, and then they've underbid. So I think there's a big opportunity for building owners to get better pricing from their supply chain if they can give them confidence that they're not going to move the goalposts. Obviously, building safety is absolutely critical, so fire safety and things. Access strategies, fire risk assessment. This is something that if you're interested in the fire strategy plan group, which we've now had 2 meetings with, they're using 360 photography, fire engineers and others to be able to retrospective fire strategies. And that can make a huge difference as far as maintenance is concerned. I was talking with a consultant last week, and what they've done is they've done a new fire strategy plan for a hospital, and they've cut down the number of fire compartments by something like 70%, because they don't need an individual room to be in a compartment. They can group together more spaces into a fire strategy compartment, and that means a lot of the assets that would otherwise need to be maintained as fire critical assets no longer have to be maintained in that way, and that's saving hundreds of thousands of pounds without compromising safety. But the problem is that most organisations don't have up-to-date fire strategy plans. Imagine being able to navigate an O&M through 360s, and the golden thread is obviously a strong way of 360 is a strong way of pulling that together. So does all of that resonate with people? Is that of interest? Ivan.
Yeah, the thing with hospitals is they have no gateway 3 on golden thread, do they? Officially, I mean, they can move patients and people around without having a gateway 3. So your golden thread is only going to be of use up to and including state gateway 2, unless it's forced to be used as a forward tool.
I think you pick up on a very good point there, and that is that certainly my view is the golden thread is relevant to all buildings. It may not legally be a requirement for all buildings, clearly, but I think the process of delivering good quality information through the whole design and construction process that is electronic and is reusable, I think is the principle we should be working to.
I agree. when I worked at Canary Wharf in 2003, we ran golden threads on both towers that I worked on there, and it wasn't called a golden thread, but it was exactly the same. So
Exactly.
so our entire CRM system was run by software by Bovis called Hummingbird, and that populated and managed the entire golden thread process.
I knew quite well the author of that. That was Ray Crotty. But yeah, I agree. So this finally is just what we've been doing on AI. So what we've been doing, this is auditing an O&M manual. This is, you know, one of our live projects, but what we've been doing is developing initially the audit process as to how we're going to audit 54 work packages in a standard methodology of checking every section to make sure that there is an asset schedule. Is there an asset schedule? If there isn't, or if there isn't an asset schedule, then obviously you've it's just missing. Or if there is an asset schedule, are there any snags in it? So this is snagging going through a manual process, sort of thing that we've done for you, Dave.
Yeah.
But we've turned it into a standard methodology, and you'll see why in a minute. So by doing that, it means that we can actually give a report back to the client quite quickly in terms of what's missing. So they can. This is actually useful for the tier one contractor because in most cases they're collecting the information from their supply chain, and you know, if they've got somebody like CreateMaster or Zootech doing the work, the problem is that they often don't have the knowledge and the expertise to be able to do the checking. So you end up with garbage in, garbage out. That's not a reflection on Zootech. It's just the process of it needs to be people that know what they're looking for. So what we've done is we've created this tool that enables us to then automate that process that we've just gone through. So we can audit, in this case, 10,000 files, and very quickly identify what was claimed to be in the schedule to see if the documents that refer to that schedule are actually there or not. And we can then use that to also turn that into some prompts and then come up with some a dashboard that tells them very quickly where the gaps are in the O&Ms. That's the sort of thing that we think is going to make a big difference to be able to automate the process of checking O&Ms. And if anybody's interested in this, I know that we've got a session on this, haven't we, Dave, coming up? But if anybody else is interested in it, then just put O&M into the chat. So what it will then do is produce a report for each of the. I mean, I'm showing this as active plan because we are actually doing this as active plan, but we're also including other people. That's the point about the AI working group. We've got about 30 people that have signed up to it now, who are contributing what they're doing, because this isn't a matter of you know, we're using a RAG database which is acting as the guideline or the guardrails for ChatGPT to work. And where we're going with this is to try and address the fact that the BIM models seldom will contain all the asset information because they never get updated. They might do in Jack's case because Jack controls the process, but in many cases that doesn't happen.
Have some control over the process.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's down to supply chains, isn't it? Really. So this, what we're doing here is going through, for example, these are door schedules. And on this particular project, there was 5 different door suppliers, and each of them had got their door schedules different, which is pretty common. But what we also discovered was that the references that were in the spatial model, in the BIM model, were different to the ones in the door schedule. Not much, but just enough that meant that you've got to manually check everything. And also, the door schedules themselves weren't provided in a machine readable format. So we had to pick them out of the PDFs and then read them into the database. Now, you might say, well, that shouldn't be necessary because you should get you've got templates and get the supply chains to fill in the templates. But in our experience, they seldom will do that because they've not priced for it, or or they've got maybe maybe somebody that isn't experienced enough doing it, so you end up getting the wrong information in. That's another different door schedule. So again, doing that. But by doing that, we can also then compare it with the drawings. So in this case, what we discovered was the drawings themselves had actually just been copied up. So it meant that the door numbers on each of the floors weren't the right door numbers. So it meant that so there's no connection between them. So we basically resorted that. So this is the way we did it as active plan, but it meant that we've now got the doors as intelligent doors that are connected back to. We can show the floor plans underneath them as well, but we're then connecting that back. So we've got the context of that, and also we can then apply that from a fire strategy perspective. So that's the sort of thing that we're trying to execute, so that we can end up with automating the process of checking for Reg 38. Ivan.
Yeah, this is great. What do we do about everything above the ceiling?
Well, the information about that's where things like open space and multi-vista that have been done during the design construction process, they pick those things up. So we can pick it up as if it's been done during that period. If it's above the ceiling on an existing building, then there's certainly technology that allows you to do the scans above the ceilings. But
I'm thinking about fire dampers, integrity of fire stopping, because you know how it is, and I saw a great example of this a couple of weeks ago from Lloyd's Bank, that a building will organically grow, particularly around data networking. So they find the easiest route to run a data cable might be through that fire damper, or it might be we'll just poke a hole through that fire stopping and we'll run our data cables through there. That's the next problem that we're going to come up against, and the golden thread will only cover that to a point. But like you say, you've got to introduce new technology to be able to do that with a degree of success, to attach that to a planned preventative maintenance package.
Or what you can also do is, I'll just show you an example. You can take the information that is being delivered. So this is one that we've done on one of on an existing building, where we've just extracted the information from In this case, it's a fire stopping application called Boris.
Yeah.
So what we've done here, this was just in the O&M. So you've got a PDF report that identifies where all the fire stopping is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that delivered what the contractor needed. In this case, I think it was Skanska. That was what they delivered, but there was 1,500. Every single fire stopping reference was on its own plan. So in the PDF, there was 1,500 plans.
Excellent.
Yeah. And that's very, very common.
Yeah.
That's normally what happens. So the result is that you've got an individual fire stopping asset, but to be able to see what the fire stopping is along that corridor, you've got to open up 6 drawings.
Okay.
So what we did, and again, this is just a way of using data engineering. This isn't AI, this is data engineering, but AI is involved in the one we're going to show you, Dave, in a couple of weeks' time. We have been using AI on that. So we can identify where all the fire stopping assets are, and then we can then read the tag number into the database. So that's read it from the PDF.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly that's not the best way of doing it, but
but it gets you across the line, doesn't it?
Yeah. And this is then giving me the XY coordinates. So we then read that into the database. So therefore we've got the location of every single fire stop in a single view.
Good work. We like that.
Yeah. And this is what it looks like in the application. So it means that you can look at the fire stopping, and you can look at the fire doors, and you can look at the fire dampers, all through the same view. So you can then navigate through. You can walk down a corridor effectively, and you're seeing the information that was collected by the installer. So going back to what I was saying earlier, let's reuse what we've already got. It's already being paid for. It's a matter of really just gluing it together. And we can also underlay the drawings as well, so you can actually see underneath the spatial model where the firewalls are. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Connor's got. Is Connor still here? Yeah.
Yeah, still here.
We've got the AWAB's law thing, Dave. Is there anything else that we need to cover?
No, I mean, apart from obviously, if anyone isn't already on the AWAB's law task force / working group, then put that in the chat so that Richard can pick it up and add you to that group. Really, I think having that specific group around AWAB's law is probably where the best what do you call it? The best coagulation of resources is present. One of the things that I was going to suggest for this meeting, probably in the next meeting or future meeting, is I'm conscious that we have quite a lot of task force and working groups specialising in specific areas, and there isn't really a list that I can share on those. And they are growing exponentially, as you're aware, George and Richard, that in most of these meetings, we do ask for people to declare an interest in something and set up a meeting for it. But just having that list of the different task force would be good. I mean, there is something on the BIM in AM and the BIM4Housing websites, but I don't know if that's completely comprehensive or not.
I think it's pretty good. We try and keep that up to date. And the other thing that I would urge people do is just download the podcasts. So the podcasts run for about 10 or 15 minutes, and they really are quite good. They're generated by AI, by reading the contributions from everybody, but they are pretty amazing. I don't know if anybody's listened to them, but I think they're stunning. They're much better than I thought they would be.
Can you do me a link to them, George, please?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
about to stick something in the chat for you guys. Just bear with me a second.
In fact, what I'll do is
There we go.
I'll just share my screen and just make sure that everybody's aware of it. What we've refreshed the website, so it's a lot better than it was. So we've got up and coming events, so up and coming workshops there. That's a bit of marketing, but here you've got the working groups. Yeah. We've then got, oh, sorry, that was daft of me. Go to the home. We've got the work streams, AWAB's law work stream. So if you want to go to the AWAB's law one, you'll see there we've got the meeting notes. We've got them. Yeah. And then you've got the podcast.
Yeah, it's worth noticing that the photo on that page of George was taken in 1870.
Yeah, that's cruel.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's very funny. Well done.
Yeah, so what we've also done, which is relevant, we've got past events, but we've also got the black box. We've renovated, we've restored the black box, and that this is there to be able to log things that you come across that that are problems that need addressing. And the other thing that we're doing at the moment is we're putting into this environment something called impacts, where you can record things that you've seen in the press about, for example, Mace are suing Mighty at the moment for 5 amperes, and Lendlease are suing Balfour Beatty for the fact that a building that was built 25 years ago has got poor compartmentation. And I think these are the sorts of things we need to be identifying and recording as the impact of bad information or incomplete information. So if that's something that I think
that's actually the old page, George.
This one, is it?
Yeah.
How have we managed that then?
Yeah, we haven't got the link to the new page on yet because we're still sorting out.
No. I agree. Yeah, so this is the current black box thing. We've not yet put the impact one. That's what you're saying, isn't it, Richard?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, so in answer to your question, we are trying to provide that but we can provide a list as well, Dave, that we can send out in the minutes and things.
Yeah. Just on that, while you're there, Richard, hearing that your voice, the digital handover thing, you on that page, it mentions John Morrow. He's no longer with Origin. I don't know whether he's still being involved with it or not.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
He did say that he wanted to stick with it. I
good,
think
good.
it's still with Places for People, though, isn't he?
No, I think he's left. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, is it?
yeah. Oh, we didn't know that.
Oh, I
Okay.
Yeah,
didn't
that's
know that.
why. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I'm fairly sure because someone mentioned it.
Well, that's a shame. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I don't know his reason. No, funny enough, it's still showing him in the list at the moment, so maybe he hasn't left just yet. But
Well, we might get Penshow
yeah,
involved in that.
Pencho was in that team anyway, so yeah. I mean, because there was Pencho and Tina, but Tina's more new homes rather than development as such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so he's
Sorry,
still on
Connor.
our list, so he's still there at the moment. But I was told he was leaving. But yeah,
Connor, we've got 10 minutes. Could you run through your thing in that sort of period?
Yes, I'll cut out all the this time.
yeah, cheers. Yeah, thanks, on.
Everybody see that, yeah?
Yep.
So at the moment, we've got sort of two separate workflows that we've high leveled. So this would be the AWAB's law specific in response to the rules and legislations around that. And so you see there's 6 steps. So the customer would raise an issue, and the proposal there's some kind of either online questionnaire or over the phone questionnaire that the team the customer service can run through with them that helps sort of sort out what the actual issue is, how much of a priority the issue should be, how bad it is, where it is, what kind of thing it is, which can help teams know what they're looking for when they go in. Once that's been raised, it's the initial survey. So weekly use, I think it's 650 question, sort of yes, no, good, fair, poor questionnaire. There is the one that was based off that I came up with previously, which was about 850 questions, which was a lot of detail. And that just helps gather all the information you want to know about conditions and where cracks are or where leaks are, things like that. As part of that initial survey, we propose the use of LiDAR 360 photographs, thermographic images, installing IoTs in sort of control room, in a controlled room, and the rooms where the issues are. Measurement schedules, window schedules, door schedules, things like that. So a really in-depth condition assessment of the property, and that doesn't have to be carried out by a qualified surveyor. It could be carried out by somebody with some kind of built environment knowledge that knows if they're looking at something that's good, fair, and poor. That information is then bundled up for a qualified surveyor, damp and mold specialist, to have a look at, and that's where that competent professional review comes in, where you would do the report, come up with the diagnosis, say this is what the root cause is, and this is what the remediation goes to be, and that sort of feedback and a look. Your standardised for of remediation. When I say standardised, just for clarity, because we there's a few questions on that yesterday. That's your standardised processes. So you'll have a standardised process for 24-hour, the 5 days, 10 days, 12 weeks, what the processes are. I would imagine you'll have standardised processes for each issue that you encounter, but that'll take a long time for that kind of library to build up. And then it's proposed that at a minimum, you have at least 12 months of monitoring with your IoTs, so that and obviously people going back to check that whatever the remediation that you've done has actually fixed it and not caused any unwanted things or stuff like that. And the reason for 12 months is you then go through all your season cycles, you get both shoulder seasons, so that if the conditions were dependent on that, you'll get to see it again whether or not you've fixed it. And then, like all good BIM projects, you do the lessons learned and feed that back into the loop. The second workflow, which is very much ongoing as to what it look like, is a proactive approach. A few of the housing associations have said, well, including Wheatley, have said, well, we don't really want to just be waiting for customers to phone us in if we've got an idea that there might be something else. So identifying what those trigger events might be. So leaks reported in certain housing types, construction types, archetypes, your ongoing 20% condition assessments. If you see something there that's not been reported, that should trigger that AWAB's law workflow. Known fuel poverty is one. Cat 1 hazards identified by somebody. Similar archetypes or construction types, structural types that you're seeing a trend in, which sort of led to these 4 pathways. One being the surveyor identification pathway. So if somebody's going out and the tenant hasn't reported an issue, but they've found an issue with damp and mould, they can then either switch to that full survey with the thermographic images in the scan, or go to the tenant and say, this is going to take longer. We'll do this. The visitor identification pathway. So that could be a survey. I'm thinking more housing officers that are doing their yearly checks or in about the housing stock day after day. If they see something, then that will trigger that first workflow. The data analytics pathway. So once you've started gathering, I mean, most housing associations will have a lot of information on this already, but that's when you analyse the data to see what the trends are, and then you can specify what your programme of works is going to be for this proactive. Send out the surveyors to do it in this housing type, in this area, in here. And then we've got path 4, which was come up with yesterday, that has nothing against it yet, but industry related feedback pathway. So working groups like this, if something's come up that somebody's found this happening, then that could trigger something in another housing association or thing. And that's really what we've got so far. So our next steps is fleshing out each of the steps to have the sort of full process, and then make it pretty with all the wee pictures of workflows and things like that. But any questions on that at all, or any feedback on that?
I've got a couple of things. Funnily enough, I was like checking against what we have in ours. And one of the things is around tenant decants. So whether we end up having to move a tenant because of the damp and mould. And the other thing is just around, and we've had this issue that we on our AMS system have a HHSRS hazards function, which basically then we use to report decent homes figures. So if it's a Cat 1, obviously it fails a decent home standard. I don't know if that's different up in Scotland compared to in England. And so one of the fallouts from having a Cat 1 damp and mould hazard is the fact that it then fails a decent home standard. One of the issues we've had is the fact that whilst we've got this lovely asset management system, which we record all of the hazards on, so we can pull Power BI reports, the actual damp and mould surveyors decide that they just do it on their own spreadsheet. And they go, oh yeah, we don't want to use your fancy system. That's too much like hard work. We'll just keep the spreadsheet. So yeah, so we've been, tussling with the damp and mold team about making sure that they follow existing processes for reporting hazards, even though they're concentrating their efforts on damp and mold. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned this on a couple of calls. So you've got your BIM coordinators, specialists, managers, but I've always been a big believer there should be, if you get clerk of works, there should be a clerk of information that deals in that sort of racy matrix that goes, no, this is the procedure. If you don't do this, it counts as you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
Type thing. But we can put that in the process, but I'm not sure we want to be that. I've forgotten the word.
Prescriptive.
Prescriptive. That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as I said, with the decent homes reporting, you don't have a choice on that. You have to, record where they're failing. So yeah, that is prescriptive, but that's an external prescription rather than an internal one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably something that goes to one of the pathways when you're looking at your proactive approach. Is obviously you'll and that probably sits in visitor or surveyor identification pathway, that if somebody's doing it and they're doing the decent home and they're gathering that information, if something comes across as Cat 1, then you need to do this. Because if I don't, AWAB's law is probably going to be almost word for word the same when it launches in Scotland and later this year.
Yeah.
But all the Cat 1 hazards are now included in AWAB's law. Anyway, so you're going to have to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Cool.
Good.
Well, I'm just conscious we've got 2 minutes left. I mean, firstly, thanks for everyone's input today. I mean, it has been really informative, despite the small amount of numbers. But I think that that often helps, that people get more chance to voice their opinions and impart some knowledge. Whereas often in larger audiences, it's difficult for people to have a forum to speak. So, yeah. But unless anyone's got anything else, I'd just like to thank everyone for attending, and George for your constant diatribe, which always keeps us informed and amused. I don't know what we'd do without you. Probably end up playing poker online and seeing who would win or something. But yeah, thank you everyone, and and obviously you've noted your interest in the working groups in the chat, so I'm sure Richard will pick that up, or Jess, one of the two, and then inform you about when those meetings are. So great. Unless anyone's got anything else they want to add, we'll close the meeting.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, I've put my email address in the chat.
Yeah, saw that.
Could all the housing association people take my email address, please, and then send me pictures of your 5 worst properties, and I'll come and repair them for you, free of charge.
All right. Actually, yeah, I've got a little bit.
I'm going to want that in writing.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but I'll offer a lifetime guarantee against it ever coming back. There's a claim to make.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. That's brilliant. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Confidence.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much.
See you guys.
Cheers. Thank
Thanks.
you.
All right. Bye,
Cheers,
everyone.
everybody.
Be easy.
Take care. Bye. Bye.